Hello everyone, welcome back to the Real-Time Game Time Ramblecast. I'm Scott Bloom.
I'm Dane Bauer.
And we have a special guest with us.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, Chris Stallings, MarauderEX here.
Today we are going to be talking about Valve's upcoming operating system, SteamOS, which is Linux-based, and we're going to share our thoughts on what it might have to potentially impact PC gaming. But first, I'd like to talk about the history of Linux. Linux was developed by Linus Torvalds in the early 90s, and Linux itself is based on Unix, developed by AT&T and Bell Labs back in 1969, and also GNU, which was developed in the mid-80s. So those two operating systems are alone are older than the three of us.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. What else did I have? Okay. Oop. Sorry about this, folks. Oh, I guess I get rid of it. Okay, so you got that right out of the way. Okay, Linux has many different variations. You got Red Hat, which was discontinued back in 2004, and you've got Fedora Core, which has been it's been going on for ever, I think. Has anyone here used Linux?
I've used a couple of variations of Linux, but I'm not proficient with it.
Yeah, neither am I, but I've used Fedora Core, Debian, Ubuntu. So, how about you, Dane?
Yeah, I've only used Red Hat back in high school, and I only used it for a couple days and had no idea what I was doing, so I reinstalled Windows.
Ah. Okay, now, God. Okay, well, what did I have for my... Okay. Okay, yeah, like I said, Fedora Core, Ubuntu, Debian, SUSE. There's a whole bunch of variations of Linux. But let's compare the minimum system requirements of Windows, Mac, and Fedora and Ubuntu. Windows 8 need at least a 1 gigahertz processor, 1 gigabyte of RAM for a 32-bit version, 2 gigabytes for the 64-bit version, 16 gigabyte hard drive for the 32-bit, 20 gigabyte for the 64-bit. Mac, I don't know the processor requirements. Dane, you know more about that than I do. What processor do you have for your Mac?
Right now I have a 2.3 gigahertz Intel Core i5.
Okay.
This was the lower end MacBook that I bought a couple years ago.
Okay.
So yeah, just that.
Okay, so they didn't put up a minimum processor for OS X Mountain Lion, but I'm going to guess that the minimum is about 1 gigahertz. If somebody out there knows more than I do, feel free to chime in. It also requires 2 gigabytes of RAM and an 8 gigabyte hard drive. So that's OS X Mountain Lion right there. Fedora, 400 megahertz processor. That's all, 400 megahertz minimum. 1 gigabyte of RAM, 10 gigabyte hard drive. Ubuntu, 700 megahertz for the processor, 512 megabytes of RAM, and 5 gigabytes of hard drive space. So those are the two Linux distributions right there. So, of course, Valve hasn't released the requirements for SteamOS yet, but I'm going to guess it's going to be somewhere between the two. Probably going to lean more toward the Fedora requirements. Any thoughts?
Well, from what I've seen, from the fact that they're doing SteamOS, which is the operating system in general, but then they're also doing the second day announcement. They did the Steam boxes that seem to be tiered.
Yeah.
One would assume that they're going to do SteamOS for whatever their lowest tier box is, but given that Linux is such a not system intensive operating system, I mean, you can base Linux around a laptop from like 2006, and it's still going to be accessible. So if they have a very large open door that they can kind of walk in through and say, okay, we can pretty much do whatever we want hardware-wise, and it's going to work with this operating system depending on what model of Linux they're using as a base.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the great thing about Linux, is that it's not resource intensive as either Windows or Mac, and so that would open up more resources for your games and apps. And you can build a dirt cheap computer, modern computer, for $400, and the operating system would save you a lot of money there. Windows 8 is $100, so.
Yeah, that's the last. I had to rebuild my desktop a year and a half ago, and the single most expensive part I used in it that I didn't already have was the operating system. Having to get a copy of Windows 7 was the most expensive single part, and if I could have gone with another operating system that would have worked with all the recording software, you better believe I would have done that rather than spending that much money on an OS.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. But now, let's see here. Cons, I think, would be because it's a Linux operating system. Not many games are available for it. However, you can stream games that you have on your Windows or Mac operating system to SteamOS. That's where things kind of get spotty for me, because you got to have two computers running to play the game that you want on your television.
Well, I'm pretty sure that since Valve's the one that's doing all this stuff, that they're gonna basically port all their main games like Half-Life, Portal, all that stuff to the new operating system, and they'll probably somehow do that with a bunch of their other the other games that they have on Steam too.
Oh, kind of like what is it? What's that? On Live. Kind of like On Live.
Yeah, kinda. But it's since they're kind of doing this to kind of with their Steam machine that they're making, and then the controller that they announced last week also, it's kind of seeming like they're trying to jump into the console race, like to get in with PS4 and the Xbox One. So I'm pretty sure that they're probably going to be somehow porting all their games over so that it's kind of basically the same thing as a console, just different.
Just on demand.
Yeah.
like on Live, you can play 15-minute demos of any game that's available for that.
I think so.
Well, I know since Windows 8 came out, Gabe Newell came out saying that he really did not like how closed the structure of Windows 8 was, since Microsoft is getting more into its own gaming world. He really didn't like the closed nature of it, and since then he's actually been working to develop better connections with the Linux community to make anything Steam related that they have directly more Steam or more Linux compatible. I know I remember reading an article about him stating how much he disliked Windows 8, and because if that's the way that the PC infrastructure is going, that open source and Linux and things like that are going to be Steam's new refuge. So that's really not a stretch for them to say, okay, well, Windows is not a good fit anymore. Let's look at something else. So
and that's what I've always loved about Linux. It's open source, so anybody with the know-how can fix problems, add on to the distribution, improve upon everything, and that's what these companies like Microsoft and Apple are doing wrong. They're keeping their stuff closed so that nobody can improve upon their screw-ups.
Well, that's a pro and con of it. You've got a closed system, which means there's less likelihood of something going wrong if you do something wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's a closed system, so there's not much you can do about it yourself. It's like using a simile that happened to a friend of mine. They drive a Prius, and they were having car problems. And I've worked on several cars. I open it up. I'm like, I can't do anything with this. I have no idea. It's so alien to me. But at the same time, you take it to someone who is familiar with it, and they were able to fix it in a fraction of the time it would have taken me. So that's kind of the trade-off I see on it. I don't necessarily agree with a closed platform, but I can definitely see from a business standpoint why they do that. But it's one of those moments.
Yeah. So yeah, this SteamOS is basically for the big screen, which they rolled out earlier this year. I think it's nice. I could use my Xbox controller to go through the menus and.
Well, now they have the whole Steam controller that they just announced too, which that one they also said that that's going to be completely open source, that anyone can open it up and make any changes they want and improve upon it.
Oh, that's cool. When I first looked at it, I thought it looked like a turntable deck. You got your two turntables on the sides and
I completely see that.
And you got a touchscreen mixer in the middle. I
saw it and I was like, why are they showing us the bottom of the controller?
Yeah, that's okay. I thought it was the back of the controller personally.
Yeah.
Like, why not show us those are the buttons. Okay.
Because everyone's so used to having like thumbsticks and D-pads and the colored buttons on the sides that this thing's completely different than anything else that we really have right now. Yeah.
And thinking about it more, I think that it could work because you could use the pads to direct your mouse cursor, and I don't know.
Yeah, because it's haptic feedback. It's basically the touchscreen on the back of a Vita, from what I can tell. So it's touch and pressure sensitive, so it's not a traditional button. So you if you wanted to. So I mean, it does have a lot of interesting options for controller setup.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen a sample setup for Portal 2, and that makes sense. So, being able to customize your controls from within the controller itself is, I think, awesome.
I mean, going back to something that Dane said earlier, that it seems like Steam, or Valve specifically, is trying to get into the console market. That's exactly what I think they're doing with all of this. When they release Big Picture, I'm like, okay, why would I want to play this on my TV? And then the announcement of the Steam boxes at E3, and now where it's all going, it's like they are trying to standardize, at least, I don't want to say standardize, but try to make a little more uniformity with PC gaming to entice the console crowds, because there's really not a lot of difference between the specs for a PS4 and an Xbox One and a mid-range gaming PC. So
yeah, and I could probably build something better for less than the price of the Xbox One.
Yeah.
And plus, you're always going to have better graphics on the PC anyway, so
yes.
If that's what you're really into, then you're going to probably want to go with a Steam machine or a Steam-powered computer.
Yeah, and since it's going to be a free operating system, you could download it, install it on your current computer, or run it virtually. And I was telling Chris about this. You could use VMware Player to install a guest operating system to check out the new operating system, and so you don't have to dual boot. You know.
That's pretty cool.
I've been using this for a couple of years since I was at school, and VMware Player. The link to that is in the description. It's a free program. Get it. Check out SteamOS when it comes out. And Valve time soon. Anything else?
I'm just really impressed by all this. Like I have a friend who's a diehard Valve fan, and he was following the daily announcements and just losing it every day, just with whatever new stuff was coming out. And I have to say, this is probably the thing that's going to really shake up this console generation more than anything else.
Yeah.
Now, so I'm very interested to see what this next generation brings out, because now that Xbox One has pretty much done a 180 with all of its policies, I was actually really disappointed with that. I thought that would have been, it wasn't a console I would have supported, but I wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah. And
now Valve is doing pretty much the same thing, but they're getting away with it. Because I mean, no matter how you look at it, Steam is kind of a DRM. It's not as an invasive DRM as what Microsoft was originally proposing, but it is still, in essence, a DRM.
Yeah.
But they also don't even pretend like what they're doing is
a bad
comparable
thing.
to. Yeah, they're not saying, oh, we're going to charge you $60 for this game. They can, or you can wait for one of the 6 Steam sales a year that drop it down to ridiculously unreasonable prices.
Down to like 20% of the original cost.
Exactly. So, but because they know what they're dealing with is virtual goods. They're not dealing with something that's a physical product. So they don't even dream of charging you that.
Right.
Whereas it seemed like Microsoft was saying, "Oh yeah, we're still going to charge you $60 for a new release game for a digital copy."
Yeah.
And they didn't even make any attempt to try to hide that they were gouging you.
Yeah.
Steam, on the other hand, they've had years dealing with this, and I remember when Steam was a terrible, terrible resource. Back in the early days of Steam, everyone hated it. It was buggy. It was full of problems. Their customer service was abysmal, and then they stepped it up, and it became the powerhouse of PC gaming that it is today.
Yeah.
So they did the exact thing that Microsoft was trying to do with the Xbox One, but like I said, they're getting away with it, and it's amazing.
The one thing I feel is great about the changes that are coming up in Steam is the family share. And you can share you can register your friends, family onto this and share your games with them.
Another thing that they basically took from the Xbox One, because one of the original things that they were talking about was the friend list sharing. You could share games with up to 10 people on your friends list. They could have access to those games, and they took that away when they did their 180 as well. So that's
they should have kept that.
They should have. I mean, there's a lot of things on the list of things Microsoft should and could have done to not have messed up the reveal of the Xbox One. But I really think Valve just sat back and watched everything that they were trying to do and like, okay, this is how we don't do this, but we're gonna do this the same thing. And I'm excited for it. Honestly, I've just recently started getting into PC gaming. I did PC gaming way back in the day when DOS was still a thing. And I got out of it for a while because it became a hassle. Like in the late 90s, it was kind of a pain to try to get a game working if you didn't have the proper drivers or proper hardware or configurations. And I think that's what turned a lot of people off on PC gaming and why the console boom became so big. And now everyone's realizing that the consoles are PCs, and
essentially
if you have a company come in and say, okay, we can make it a little bit easier for you guys who are completely illiterate with computers to just jump in and play and have fun, but then I'll have the advantages of PC gaming, like mod support.
Oh, yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've sat in here and said, I want to play Skyrim with the moon from Ocarina of Time staring down at me, but I can't because it's on a console.
Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask?
Majora's Mask.
Yeah, that would be totally creepy.
I've seen pictures of it, but it's like, okay, I've got it on a console, but I haven't wanted to take the time to get it on PC and set up the mod support. But now that this Steam boxes are coming out, and it's like, well, they're simplifying, half the process for me right off the bat. I don't really have an excuse now.
Yeah. Dane, is there anything you want to say? You've been quiet for a while.
I just woke up right before this, so.
Oh. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. You guys are saying all the same stuff that I would say anyway, so it's all good.
Let's see here. I think we should open up the floor, and does anybody have anything to say on a previous topic? Or are we done?
I don't really have anything to say.
I was like, we pretty much quickly and concisely got to, hey, SteamOS, it's a thing, it's a good thing, and go try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited to see when all this stuff comes out, how it all really works together and how cool it actually is.
Yeah. Maybe the SteamOS will it'll definitely revolutionize PC gaming, but
yeah, definitely.
And not like Chris said, game consoles are essentially PCs, but with a PC you can make whatever upgrades necessary, like video cards, memory, processing power, all that. And with this, people won't have to upgrade their systems like they would for Windows operating system or Mac. Actually, can't really upgrade on Macs, can you, Dane?
You kind of can. A little bit. Not as much as a PC, though.
Well, actually, PC is an abbreviation for personal computer, so whether if it's Windows, Mac, Linux, there are still PCs.
Yeah.
It's
just the marketing behind it. It's a little different.
Yeah. Yeah, but I just want to get that out there for the listeners.
I just don't think Apple likes calling their products PCs for some reason, so that's why they did that whole marketing thing.
Yeah, it's branding. PCs for the longest time had, a kind of a negative connotation of, the guy with the Coke bottle glasses and the weird, pencil tie in someone's basement, playing with RAM and a motherboard, and they're like, no, we want style, and so Steve Jobs put on a black turtleneck and, style.
Yeah.
But that was, 30 years ago? Today...
Yeah.
Well, actually, probably even 20 years ago, but today, building a computer is simple. Configuring the computer is simple. You don't really you don't have to do as much today as you did 15 or 20 years ago. So, yeah.
I built a PC for my mother-in-law, and I was doing it at her kitchen table, and she's sitting there watching me put these parts together, and she's like, is that all you have to do for this? I'm like, yeah, it's really not hard. And she's like, well, that's... like, she was expecting some sort of, massive labor. And it's like, no, it's... As long as you know the parts, it's not difficult. And nowadays, it's really not hard.
No. I remember back in the day, I would configure the mouse to work under DOS games. Like, I'd be playing Lemmings Chronicles, a whole bunch of others. I think Mario's Missing was one of them.
Oh god, Mario's Missing.
I actually like the PC version.
The PC version's tolerable. The console no, it was just not built for a controller for
No.
that era.
No, not at all. Oh, okay, I think the old men are done talking.
Back in my day, Mario went missing.
Yeah, Luigi was a star of his own game.
Before Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah. Let's see here. Mega Race. I think that. Oh yeah, and gamepads, joysticks. They all had to have like this really intensive configuration. You can just plug it in and go. Modems. You had to configure those manually. And we were using dial-up.
Yeah, I was a little kid when like all this stuff was going on, so I barely remember some of this stuff, but I do remember having a joystick playing DOS games on my first Windows 95 PC, which I think I still have somewhere.
We had
and it probably still works.
An old 486 PC that ran DOS so that I could play the original Mech Warrior.
Nice.
And I remember the first time I loaded up Wolfenstein. And it took me an hour to get Wolfenstein ready because it only had 4 sound cards that it was compatible with. And so I'm sitting here having to try to figure out which one of mine is the closest related to the sound cards that it was compatible with. And eventually I got sound. I'm like, this is terrible.
And it was coming through the computer's internal speaker, right?
Yes, it came out through the internal speaker for the error speaker inside, and like, this is what?
I love that speaker.
It's definitely, an interesting hardware component, I will say that.
Yeah, now we have 5.1, 7.1 PC surround sound, and God.
I was really disappointed. I have an old 3.1 surround system that my older brother gave me, and I'm like, I am so hooking this up, and I'm looking, I was like, oh my, these speakers did not age well. They're just like the brand new speakers that I bought just out of the box are better. I'm like, oh, I forgot this technology also improved greatly over the last couple of years.
Oh my God. All these memories.
Reminiscing about the good old days of PC gaming.
Yeah, when you had to boot into DOS to do the configurations for Windows so that you could run those configurations to play the games in DOS.
I recently spent a day or two getting DOSBox up and running on my PC because I had the strangest craving to play Scorched Earth. If you've never played that, it's like the precursor to Worms. You're tanks. Okay. And it's the volley type system where you just shoot and hope that you arc and hit the opponent and not hit yourself.
Yeah.
And I had to play it, and it's a DOS only game. And so therefore it won't work on Windows, and so you need DOSBox is a DOS emulator. I'm like, we've gotten to the point to where we need an emulator for DOS. Really? This is
run VMware Player, install DOS on that, and you're good to go. That's easier.
It would be. Trying to set up a DOS emulator is like, on paper it doesn't sound all that difficult, but then you're actually sitting here doing it, and then if you've ever used DOS, you're sitting here going, why am I doing this? Why on earth would I want to do this?
And then we got Good Old Games, which does all that for you.
Yeah, I bless Good Old Games, man. I have found so many games on that site that are Windows compatible now that I thought were lost to the ages.
Yeah. One of my favorites on the list on that is Raptor, Call of the Shadows. It's a sci-fi shoot 'em up, but the screen scrolls vertically, and you got this little ship. You gotta destroy enemy ships. If anyone's played Gradius or any other shoot 'em up, then you can easily get into this game. And that doesn't require DOSBox. It's an updated re-release, and you can just run it right off of Windows.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be building a. Well, I don't know if I'm going to build a Steam box or if I want to wait and see what tiers they come out with, because there's been a lot of rumors about like a low, medium, and high tier, and then they want to make it so that the tiers are gradable, so it can tell you what games will be playable in what settings, for the next couple of foreseeable years and upgrades. So I'm going to wait and see what they come up with and what their price point is.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're going to be like, okay, a lot of our audience know how to build computers, and they can probably build, this type of machine cheaper by doing it themselves. So I think they're going to aim for that.
Yeah.
That demographic. But I'm really excited because there's a lot of PC gaming that's modern PC gaming, and then like we've been talking about, retro PC gaming that I would love to be able to stream to my computer.
Yeah.
Using big picture mode and just sitting on my couch and playing, all of these classic games it's a mouth-watering experience, I can tell you.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless, really, for this. You could have your Steam operating system, and if somebody was ambitious enough, they could build an operating system for emulators, for like NES emulators, Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, those kind of emulators, and have it set up so that you could use a gamepad to scroll through menus and update your library, configure the emulators. I don't know.
Just have an all-in-one media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally see that happening in the coming decade. So.
Or I can see people doing it using, kind of below-board emulators, and you have that questionable legality. But what would be amazing is if, the old-school developers, like I could see Sega getting in on that hardcore, because they've already started bringing things to the Ouya. Yeah. And let's face it, the Ouya did not really do well sales-wise after its initial launch. So I can, and Sega has been getting progressively more and more buddy with Valve for its PC gaming, because they've been going digital only for the last couple of years now, trying to cut out physical sales. So I could see like a Sega shop where I could buy any of the old Genesis era titles for dirt cheap.
Yeah, and I'm still mad at Sega for what they did back in January.
Oh God,
November. Sorry.
Yeah, it's been almost 1 year since that happened, and
they really haven't done anything about it. I mean,
they haven't. Total Biscuit's boycott is still active.
Yeah.
So,
but you got lucky though.
I got lucky because of a technicality. That's really all it is. If it weren't for that little technicality, I know that I would have been in the same boat as everyone else. So
yeah,
I'm thankful for that. But I'm still kind of appalled that they have not done what they should.
And what gets me mad even more is that I didn't receive a single message from YouTube about it.
Oh no, because YouTube has a very heavy-handed policy. You're guilty until proven innocent on YouTube.
But I had gotten a strike before from EA when the Command and Conquer MMO was still in its beta stage. I did a recording of it and had it up, got the strike, and I figured, okay, no problem. I won't do that again. But 6 months later, that strike got revoked, and I was able to upload longer videos again. So then November came around, and they decided to kill my account without telling me.
Yeah. I mean, one of the only reasons why I knew what was going on is because I was online as it was happening. I was on YouTube, and I go to click a video, and then it redirects me to their copyright school saying that, oh,
Yeah.
I've got a copyright flag now, because I'm like, what is going on? And then it was just in that moment that I contested it. If I had not contested it at that moment, I would have missed it.
Yeah.
Because the next day is when the other flags hit, and...
Yeah, and that was the thing. The day before, it was all quiet, and then I wake up 8 o'clock in the morning, I sign into my YouTube account. There is no YouTube account.
Yeah.
So
it's... But I know for a fact that, Valve has been, oh, you want to put our games on it? Go right ahead, please. Free advertising is never a bad thing. You want to play TF2? You want to make money off playing TF2? Here's some guys who make a lot of money off TF2. Just go watch their videos.
That's another thing that gets me mad. People making money off of these games. On my last YouTube account, I did have the Google AdSense thing going on there, but I never ever I never tried to monetize any of the videos that I had.
I can't say anything now. I'm now partnered with Full Screen, and so
Okay.
I've got ads. And I'm just rolling.
And
in
congratulations
the
to you on that.
Thank you. But I mean, it's not like I'm not doing it for the money, because like I said, I'm rolling in the dollars. I think I make $1 a day.
Wow.
Like it's just it's not one of those things that it's like, oh, this is going to be my new job. It's like, oh, well,
it's a hobby that gives you money.
this is going to pay for my next mic upgrade.
Yep.
That's basically it. So
yeah, like my writing, for years I've been just doing it to get all these ideas down and get them out of my head, and then Amazon brings up their publishing service through CreateSpace, and I thought, I'll do it. I mean, it doesn't cost anything.
It's like, hey, if you can make a little bit of money on it, that's...
Yeah, and it's not just books. You could do videos, music, whatever. They got a lot on there for you to try to make money from.
Yep.
So yeah. Okay, I think I'm done.
I was say we've gone way off.
Yeah, we've gone everywhere and done everything except take the kitchen sink with us.
Yep.
Okay.
I can go grab it if you want me to.
Hey, it never hurts to have a sink.
No. Okay, so thank you for listening, folks, and hopefully we could do this again next month or maybe November. Just not 6 months from now or 7 months from now.
It's gonna be a yearly podcast.
Yeah.
Welcome to the yearly podcast. This year we're talking about
We're talking about something that happened 2 years ago.
So the aliens invaded, and now we're all living underground.
Our evil robot overlords have decided that we are not allowed to see the sun anymore. So.
Alright, so maybe let's try to aim for the end of October. Last weekend of October.
Sounds good to me.
Or whenever.
I'll try and wake up early so I'm more talkative.
Or we could do this later so everybody's more awake and...
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah.
More coffee.
I also live on caffeine. Like I don't have a blood alcohol content. I've got a blood caffeine content. So if it's less than 2% caffeine, I'm pretty much unconscious.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you later.
See ya.
Later.